All right, I'm going to start the do now on this particular lesson. All right, we have to think of two numbers in which the product is 14, but when we add those two numbers is 15. So if you haven't started yet, take some time and try to see if you can figure out those two numbers before I say it. So pause the video now. And those two numbers will be 1 times 14, or 14 times 1. Okay, so now we're looking at two numbers in which the product is negative 40. So that means one has to be negative, one has to be positive, because a positive times a negative gives you a negative. And the sum is negative 18. That means the larger number is going to be negatives. So the one that has the larger absolute value. So pause the video and give yourself a chance to get it on your own if you haven't done so already. Okay, so the answer for this one would be negative 20 and 2. Negative 20 times 2 is negative 40. Negative 20 plus 2 is negative 18. Alright, so let's solve this problem by factoring. So the first thing we're going to do is let's place a 1 right here. We're going to take this 1 and multiply it by this positive 24. So positive 1 times 24 is 24. So what two numbers multiply to give us 24 and add to give us 10? So when we take a look at that, that would be 4 and 6. So now we're actually going to give you a shortcut from what we did in class. If this coefficient is a 1, some of you guys already noticed that you could simply just say x plus 4 times x plus 6, and it's factored. The reason why I was making you do all the work that looks like so, x squared plus 4x plus 6x plus 24, and then we factor by grouping, factoring out the x, that leaves us with x plus 4, factoring out the plus 6, that leaves us with x plus 4, and then factoring out the x plus 4, and that leaves us with x plus 6, is because that's the method we're going to have to use today on our lesson when the coefficient is not 1. And this coefficient is not 1. So I said, hey, we might as well get some practice, because the moment you can do this particular diamond, you pretty much have that problem done. But unfortunately, when this coefficient is not 1, we're going to have to do this factoring by grouping. So let's take a look at this one. 1 times negative 12. And we want two numbers that multiply to give us negative 12. But when we add the two numbers, we get 1. And that would be negative 3 and 4. So negative 3 times 4 is a negative 12. And negative 3 plus 4 is a positive 1. So now we can simply just say x minus 3 times x plus 4. And that's what it's equal to. And we're done. And then the second component was to solve once we have them equal to 0. So we would go 3x plus 7 is equal to 0, or x minus 3 is equal to 0. On this side, all we have to do is add 3, we get x is equal to 3. And here we subtract 7, we get 3x is equal to negative 7. Divide both sides by 3. We have x is equal to negative 7/3. So our answer would be negative 7/3, comma 3. On the next one, where you do it exactly the same way, we're just going to use the zero product property. 4x minus 9 is equal to 0, or x minus 1 is equal to 0. We'll add 9 to both sides. That will leave us with 4x is equal to 9. Divide both sides by 4, and we have x is equal to 9/4. Here, all we have to do is add 1 to both sides, and we have x is equal to 1. So our answer would be 1 and 9/4. And the last problem, we have to do all three parts now. So remember, place that 1. We're going to multiply 1 times this plus 16, which gives us 16. and the two numbers that multiply give us 16, but when we add, we get 10. That would be 2 and an 8. So in this particular case, we have x plus 2 times x plus 8 is equal to 0. And then we'll set it, use a zero product property, x plus 2 equals 0, or x plus 8 equals 0. Subtract 2 from both sides, we get x is equal to negative 2. Subtract 8 from both sides, and we have x is equal to negative 8. So our answers are negative 8, common, negative 2. So those are two answers. Here, again, place the 1s. 1 times a negative 12 is negative 12. So the two numbers that multiply to give us negative 12, but add to give us 4, that would be negative 2 and 6. So negative 2 times 6 is negative 12. Negative 2 plus 6 is a positive 4. So we can write that as x minus 2 times x plus 6 is equal to 0. And by the zero product property, one of these or both has to equal 0. Or x plus 6 is equal to 0. Add 2 to both sides. X is equal to 2 minus 6 from both sides. And x is equal to negative 6. So our answer, negative 6, comma 2. See you in the next video when we solve quadratics by factoring when the leading coefficient is not 1.